Today, I'm sharing what 3 coaches did differently to increase their prices by 2K, make 20 times their investment back in less than 2 weeks, and transform her entire business confidence in just a few weeks. Welcome, coaches, to another episode of the Best Damn Coach podcast. I'm so excited you're here because today I am sharing with you 3 live case studies or real case studies of some of my amazing coaches that I have had the honor of working with and that have come inside the Framework Builder Lab and had major, major shifts inside of their business. And I think sometimes when we are contemplating, like, do I really is this something of value for me to take a step into? It's so helpful to just hear the real truth and the real scenarios of real life human coaches, just like yourself, and how saying yes to creating and taking their expertise and putting it into a methodology can massively transform so many things in their business. In fact, so many things that they didn't even expect or know. And so I thought I would pull 3 transformations that will show you exactly what happens when you stop second guessing your expertise and create a framework that backs up every promise that you make to clients. And that's really something that I want to highlight inside of this episode is the value of what happens when you build a framework exceeds what you consciously are aware of right now. And that's why I'm so freaking passionate about getting every single coach in the world into this program, because what happens is kind of like a catapult into the rest of your coaching business. And these are not hypothetical stories. These are real coaches who went from, I would say, kind of playing small, sitting in a little disbelief, a little messiness of their expertise and discounting their prices, to confidently charging new higher premium rates and delivering results. But most importantly, they are no longer sitting in this like hesitation, this sideline. It's like they're super clear on who they are, what they do, and the results they deliver. And what happens as a result of that is they are talking about their business all the time. They're not afraid to have a conversation. When they stand up at a networking event, they're not flouncing and flubbing around their words. And so I want to start with one of my amazing coaches. So I'm going to use first initials in all of these. And each of these case studies kind of came in with a different struggle inside the lab. And I want to share it this way because I think you're going to identify with one of these struggles. And so Dee had what I call the fire hose problem. She's actually spent, I think, 20 plus years as a divorce mediator. So she was an attorney who dealt with divorces. And this is so cool because through this process, what she realized and became, totally passionate about was that so many of the divorces she was mediating could have been resolved through relationship coaching, could have been resolved through front end work. And so she made this shift. She actually, like many of you, does have a certification. And she, in her own words, she said things like, I knew I had a ton to share. I had a box full of tools, not just from the certification she has, but from her own coaching experiences. And she had tons of strategies and concepts that she wanted to share with her clients. So there was no shortage for her of information and tools. But her problem and one of her biggest concerns is that it was like a fire hose. And so she would get on and she would get excited and she would speak and her clients would kind of have this glaze over, or before she could even get into those calls, she just had all this information and she wasn't sure how to package it up into a process that made sense and that brought in her years of experience as a divorce attorney and also now her experience as, I would say, a relationship coach and relationship mediator. And so she was really at a loss on how to take all of that information and those teachings and put it in a package that was, I think, both cost efficient for her and effective to create impact. And what she was noticing is that she had a super high conversion rate inside of her mediation attorney practice. So in other words, when somebody would come into her, it was like almost like a 85 to 90% conversion into the attorney practice. But she couldn't seem to translate that into coaching. There was some sort of block. And what we realized it was she just didn't have the confidence to sell those coaching packages. So then Dee discovered my work. She joined the Framework Builder Lab. And here's the really cool thing that happened. Just an anecdotal, she had shared this inside our Facebook group. Within 30 days, she had sold her first 5K package to a cold lead, somebody she didn't know, for her coaching practice. This was something up to this point she had not even pitched. So within 30 days, like, why? Why the change? What was the shift that happened? And she said that the breakthrough came for her because she finally had this vision for her framework. Not just the nuts and bolts, but the big picture, that she was able to see kind of these pillars of her coaching methodology. She was able to kind of sift through what was important and hold on to that and let go of the stuff that was kind of the nice to know, as I call it. And what she was able to do was to see the clear and concise results that those clients would come and she would be able to deliver as a coaching option. So the problem for her, like divorce mediation, is very clear. The outcome is they're getting divorced. She's got to walk them through the steps to make it happen. In the relationship coaching, where she was getting hung up was that promise and that result, because it may end in divorce, it may not. And so we were able to really lock in the guarantee, the tangible and measurable guarantee that she could offer. And what it did was gave her the confidence to know what she was doing, to be able to talk about what she was doing. And this translates into, for her, very clear packages that she is able to talk about with total confidence. And what I love too, you're going to even hear a little bit from her, is that she said, I made the investment back 20 times in just 2 calls. In 2 calls inside the Framework Builder Lab, she was like, this was 20 times worth this, minor investment. And I think the takeaway for her story is that before you feel confident to talk about growing your coaching practice, you have to have just such strong confidence in your ability to create results. And that's where I find many coaches are missing. They have a belief maybe that it's imposter syndrome or they need to coach more people. I disagree 100%, because I see it time and time again inside the lab. Once you're clear on the results you provide, it is like a fast track to being able to talk about your coaching services. So if you relate to Dee's story, it's that fire hose problem where you have all this information, you're trying to give so much of it, and as a byproduct, what's happening is you're watering down the very transformation that you can give. And inside the lab, I will help you walk through and have discernment around like what to get rid of and what to keep that makes sense for you. Okay, so that's an amazing, beautiful case study. I want to talk about another student with the first letter D. This D is actually her background is in systems. She calls herself a scaling architect and coach. And where she spent years was in done-for-you services. So in other words, she was helping solopreneurs and companies implement systems to help organize their business so they could scale, so they could make more money, bring in more clients. But up to this point, what would happen is she would do all the work on the back end for them. So as you have and can imagine, is like that's a lot of hours and it's a lot of work on herself. And the really only way to grow that is to hire more people to do that work. And she tried that and it was not a great fit. And what she realized is she wanted to make this transition, like many of you, from the skill set that she is brilliant at into a more scalable form. And so she had this vision of like, hey, I want to take this knowledge that I have, but I want to coach people to do it for themselves. I want to be able to see where they're lacking systems in their business and what their struggles are. And so she was about a year into the transition from this kind of done for you service provider to coach. And she hadn't stepped into it fully because she was concerned and hesitant and nervous about making this transition fully because she didn't know if she could actually get the results without putting hands on it and doing the work herself. And I think many of you can relate to this. Maybe you're just hesitant and you're not sure, like, am I really capable? Like, I think I can deliver this transformation. Or maybe this is what I see. You're in a group program or you're in a single, you're doing a lot of one-to-one, like signature coaching, one-to-one coaching, but you'd love to have a group program. You'd love to scale and be able to, have more time and, create more transformation in a group container, but you're concerned that you don't know if you can get the same results in a group environment as one-to-one. I know this was, for me, hesitation that I've had along my journey too, which is why doubling down on frameworks has become the key to my success over time. And the thing about this for D is that this had her playing super small. She was discounting her prices because she was hesitant. And she was so anxious. Like, I was discounting my freaking prices all the time because I didn't have belief. And then she would say she was going to like do some sort of promotion and she would totally sidestep it. So she wouldn't end up posting on social. She wouldn't talk about it. She didn't actually follow through. And it had her downplaying her offers. And that felt super frustrating because she knew she was good at it in this other container. It was just expanding into this new version of herself that was impactful. And so here's the breakthrough that happened for her. And I call this the promise guarantee. I shared something with her on a call, something of the nature, and I told her, your framework is how you make sure you can deliver on the promise you get your clients. If you are building a framework that isn't just a fluffy acronym, or you looked it up on ChatGPT, or some other coach was just like slap a name to it and call it a framework, that is baloney. You're doing a way disservice to your clients. A well-built framework, just as I will teach you inside the Framework Builder Lab, is a reverse designed methodology. So in other words, we start at the end and you're already identifying the exact tangible promise you will make to your clients, and you reverse design the framework for there. When you've done that, it inevitably guarantees results. And for Dee, she was like, this is the thing I'd been missing. And what I think was of high value for her is I teach how to build your framework with a framework. So you get to experience the power of a framework, and it's methodical, it's intentional. And that's how I've built out the Framework Builder Lab with certainty. Is I literally take it down and I break it down into bite-sized pieces so that you can build out. And this cohort, this cohort that we're about to start is a completely live cohort. So that means you meet with me every Wednesday for 8 weeks. We do basically 3 weeks of content and then open Q&A, 3 weeks of content. And I am walking you through the pieces. So you're getting real-time accountability. I'm showing and modeling it for you. And the amazing part is you can ask me questions in real time. This live cohort is the highest demand program that we have. And years ago, I thought, oh, I'm only going to do an evergreen. And there's so many people that are like, are you doing it live again? Are you doing it live? Tell us when you do it live. I need to send some of my friends to you because this is so powerful. By the way, you can find out more about that at amanda-walker.com/lab. The cohort starts October 22nd, and it goes for 8 consecutive Wednesdays. If you can't be there live every time, no problem. The replays are there. We have a private Facebook community for members only. You're going to have so much value that it just propels you into 2026 with fire. And that's exactly what happened for Dee. Is there was a major confidence shift that happened when she walked out of the doors of the FBL. She had a complete framework, just like you will. And she's infused it into every part of her business and to every offer. And so she knows that with every single offer she has in her business, she can 100% deliver on the promises. And that for her has her showing up in promotions, launching her group programs, which since the FBL, she's done multiple iterations of that. She also shared that she's increased her prices since the FBL by $2,000. She's sold 2 rounds of her group intensive launches, and she's moved out of this kind of part-time consultant role into a full-time coaching role, which was something before the FBL she was totally craving and wasn't quite there yet. So I think you can see yourself inside of Dee's story as well, because I know many of you are on this like hesitation, like, can I really do this thing? How do I get results? Well, a framework equals results. Okay, and here's our third case study. This time it's from a client B. She is essentially, she helps corporate environments, whether it's mid-level corporation, mid-level leaders, or just a company in itself, get the right people in the right seat on the bus so that as a company or as a program, they are performing in the highest way possible. So they have high productivity, their communication within the team is on point, and ultimately what that does is it impacts the company's bottom line. And so for her, what was a struggle for her is she uses a specific assessment. Maybe you've heard of it, the Strengths Finder, inside some of her work. But before the FBL, what she was doing was talking about that assessment. And she was kind of letting that be the focus of her coaching. But most people don't know what the Strengths Finder is, or what the DISC is, or what the Enneagram is. Or if they know about it, they don't know how a coach might be able to use that and massively shift the leadership and effectiveness of a company. And what we had to do is I had to show her that the results you're getting them aren't the outcome of the assessment, right? They are the framework that you're taking them once that assessment is utilized. And she was so stuck before the FBL. And what we were able to identify and show her is she didn't think she had a process. And maybe many of you don't either. If you're like B, what happens is you discount all the stuff that you did. She was in a corporate environment for 15 years. She is a parent. She's done all of these high corporate training. She's led large teams. She was discounting it. And all of a sudden, she was just focusing on this like certification and skill set she has in developing or utilizing this tool towards her coaching. I was like, hey, I want you to look back. All that stuff matters. And so I always call it the lived experience versus the academic experience. You as a coach, what makes you different and what makes you unique is when you bring both of those elements together. And I believe we need this now more than ever. I'm recording an entire episode about this particular struggle. And so what we were able to do is take all those scattered ideas, that her perception of her scattered skill set, and package it into a very clear, cohesive framework. And she was able to see now, I use this assessment, but then I have 3 clear phases that I walk my clients through that are massively shifting that company. And what I love for her is after the FBL, here's some things that have happened for her. She's speaking in groups and at conferences and at corporations. She's actually gone on from the FBL. She joined the BDC. So she's taken this concept that I also teach, this mold by offer, and use that as a front end to teach. So she said, I'm probably like 5 steps ahead than I was the entire year of 2024. All because of one investment in a very short, potent experience that had her totally clear on her expertise, totally clear on how to package it, and totally clear on the results that she is going to give. And after finishing the FBL, she said this too. In the last few weeks, I've approached different people, whether I've heard them talking about different topics that align with my strategy or align with my framework, and I have approached them without hesitation. And I know this is what you want too, is to see so clearly the value you can bring and the results you can deliver that without hesitation, you share your coaching services. That's what's going to take you from hobby coach to profitable coach. It's not another cool business strategy or posting more content on Instagram. It's actually the root. It's kind of like when you go to pull weeds and you just pull what you see on the surface and you keep doing that and the weed grows back and the weed grows back. When you build a framework, what you're doing is you're actually getting underneath the surface. You're pulling out the whole root of where your lack of confidence and confusion is coming from. And you build the framework and all of those other things really melt away. And that's what I want to reiterate. Every single coach should come through the lab, because that is the power of what happens when you take clear, consistent action on building your unique methodology, which sets you apart from everyone else, but it also gives you clarity on exactly the outcomes you're going to deliver. So, I mean, here's the common threads through all 3 of these stories. They got confidence through the clarity. All three women experienced the same shift. When you know exactly how you help your people, your confidence soars and clients feel that. Also, they had systematic delivery clarity. Instead of just fire hosing or being scattered with their clients with everything they knew, they could deliver transformation into a repeatable process, a proven process. And number three, they were able to see like their premium positioning. And when you know with clarity the problem you solve and the ideal premium client you serve, if you think about what happened for all of them, their prices increase, they got clients immediately, and it created opportunities for them to speak speak confidently about their coaching businesses and outside opportunities. So in my opinion, their framework became their competitive advantage, not just how they delivered the results, but how they positioned themselves in this coaching market. And now more than ever with the noise, I know with certainty you need this and you're going to feel the exact things that these three amazing ladies did. And the reality is, as our first example case study D, she 2x her return in 2 calls. Diane had a complete business transformation that she'd been sitting in for a year of hesitation. And B had really was 5x ahead of where she had spent her entire last year. So I would love for you to join this live cohort of the lab so you too can have some of these exact same opportunities. Again, here's how you sign up. Head on over to amanda-walker.com/lab. The investment right now is the lowest it will be for this container ever. It's just 8 weeks live, real-time accountability, a community where you can ask questions. It's me coaching. You're going to have opportunity each session to ask questions so you're never feeling stuck. So this isn't just a program that you buy into and it sits on the shelf. The cohort begins October 22nd of 2025. And as one of the girls said, this is the key. This is like the foundation to get really good at coaching. Then you build your business. If you don't feel like you can be effective or create impact, you're not going to go out and do the things that you say you want to. And that is really what's going to happen inside this. So you have 2 options. You can continue second guessing your ability, playing small, living with this lack of clarity or lack of confidence, or you get to create a framework with me live. And that's going to create the amazing confidence that you're looking for and the clarity to go take your next steps. So again, come join me, amanda-walker.com/lab. I don't want you to play small or discount your prices or second guess yourself. And your framework isn't just really how you help clients. It's how you build that confidence to do all the things that I know you're capable of. So I cannot wait to see you live in this cohort. We already are filling up with some amazing coaches, and I know you can be one of them. So please feel free to invite other friends, send this episode, just copy the link, say, hey, let's do this together. You can create accountability buddies. Send me a message on Instagram. Yes, I am back on Instagram. And at A Walk My Way, you can send an email to our support at amanda-walker.com if you have any specific questions. But I 100% know that you're going to end this year with a massive shift when you join the lab.